Hello, everyone, and good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon. Welcome to Inspire, Innovate, Ignite, Conversations That Count. And this is a panel discussion brought to you by our sacred community, the Empowerment Program. And we invite you to become a member for just $1, where you have access to programs like this and much more. So today we are going to be discussing the vulnerability of being seen, heard, and sharing. Whenever you step into a space where you share who you are, it can cause responses that may surprise you. And the research conducted by Brene Brown from the University of Houston states that we admire vulnerability in others and see it as a weakness in ourselves. Vulnerability comes with big risks and big rewards. Whether you are an entrepreneur or a corporate career-minded human, parent, student, etc., we can all struggle with being seen, heard, and sharing from time to time. So I'd like to welcome our panelists today for this discussion. Welcome, everyone. It's so nice to see all of you. And each of our panelists are handpicked for the topics that we're discussing. So this forum allows you to be part of the conversation as well as access some expert advice. So you're in a really good place if this is something that you're struggling with or you just want to know more about it. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our premier panelists now. And first up, we have Lisa Depampholis. Hi, Lisa. And Lisa helps ambitious spiritual coaches and transformational leaders understand exactly who their ideal clients are, what tagline to use to attract them, how to engage with them, and how to articulate the value of the solution they offer so they can achieve next level success in their business. Lisa is an intuitive business consultant and copywriter, best-selling author, speaker, and internationally recognized in the world of business, online marketing, and awakening consciousness. Lisa is also a host of the Rise Up, Embody Your Infinite Light, and she's the co-host of Finding Me, Coming Home to Your Divinity. So welcome, Lisa. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
And we also have Amanda Rakovanik. I'm so sorry, Amanda, please correct my pronunciation of your last name. You can go ahead and unmute for a moment.
It's Rekanovich, or in Croatian, Račanović. Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I'm not, that is not my forte. So Amanda is a women's empowerment coach. She has had the very important jobs of being a mother and a teacher. She is also a writer, an artist, and a creative. Welcome, Amanda. It's nice to have you here. We have Julie DeLuca Collins. That I could pronounce, Julie. Julie is the founder and CEO of Go Confidentiality Services, the host of the famous Casa de Confidence podcast, and her weekly radio show, Confident You, feature on the Global Talk Radio Network. Love the name of the podcast. As a business and life strategist coach, Julie helps women business owners launch or grow their businesses, get clients, be productive, and achieve their dreams. Julie helps her clients create simple habits to achieve goals and change lives. Julie is also the best-selling author of the newly released book, Confident You, Simple Habits to Live the Life You've Imagined. Thank you and welcome for being here, Julie. It's nice to have you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And it's Go Confidently.
Oh, okay. So sorry about that. Thank you for the correction. And we also have Chris Papias. Okay. As a mindset coach, Chris's mission is to share what she has learned with other women who are tired of being people pleasers, tired of feeling stuck and uncertain as they look to the future, and who are ready to take action now to create a life they love. So nice to have you here, Chris. Thank you for coming.
I'm
And
happy
then, thank you. I'm so glad you're here. And last but not least is our wonderful Sue Rummik. And Sue is an empath brain retrainer and overwhelm strategist for highly sensitive people, also known as empaths, including professionals, creatives, healers, moms, and dads. Empath trainer Sue's purpose and passion is guiding, teaching the highly sensitive empath to redesign extreme sensitivity to the outside world so they get control of what has controlled them most of their lives. Sue is also the wonderful host of Life Force Activators here at our sacred community. So these are our wonderful panelists that we have tonight. And I'm super excited to have this conversation around vulnerability, being seen, heard, and sharing, because it's something that not only people who aren't entrepreneurs struggle with, those that are entrepreneurs can struggle with this subject matter as well, kind of a lot. So I'd like to start off, and I'm just going to go in order of who I see first, to my right, your left. And the first question I'd like to get started on asking is around courage. So Brene Brown states that vulnerability is not weakness. It's our greatest measure of courage. So my question to the experts tonight is, how do you access this courage? If you are a person that, struggles with this, being vulnerable, being seen, how do you access the courage? So Sue, I'd like to start with you. If you could please answer that question. And if you have any tips on that, that would be wonderful.
Thank you. To me, vulnerability, as Brene says, I find that to be a strength, because it means that we're not coming from a place of ego all the time. We aren't telling ourselves a story about how courageous we are and hiding behind an untruth because we're so afraid to see where we're really coming from. I believe that vulnerability gives us an opportunity to explore where we might be challenged, but also in truth, where we need to up-level some of our skills. Now, when it comes to highly sensitive people, their vulnerability is that they feel too much from other people, which many of us do, but don't realize that we are highly sensitive. We just assume that we're, the weak ones. So one of the strongest tips I can give to people is, when you are feeling very vulnerable as a highly sensitive person, and I'm going to speak to the non-highly sensitive people as well, but for the highly sensitive people, it's important to recognize that the vulnerability you may be feeling in your body, the fear, the anxiety, the butterflies, the whatever it is that feels like panic or fear, may not be yours. You may be picking it up from your environment, from the other people around you. So for the highly sensitive person feeling that vulnerability, I would ask them to ask one important question: is what I'm feeling really mine? And if you ask that from your heart, not your intellect, but from your heart and your body, the honest truth will actually come to the front very fast. And it'll be a very strong yes, it's yours, or a very strong no, it's not. And listen to your body, believe it. If it says no, it's not yours, it's not yours. And at which point you can recalibrate and say, okay, if it's not mine, then I can calm down and move forward. I'm just going to use my strengths and move forward. For the people who are not highly sensitive, who are all but highly vulnerable, feel very vulnerable to their world, that could be because they've experienced trauma at a very early age, or in their upbringing, that's become an embedded part of who they are. And learning to recognize that what they're feeling may be an old story. They're not actually as vulnerable to a situation as they think they might be. They could be reliving an old story and putting that as a mask on top of what's really going on around them. So again, for people who are not considered to be highly sensitive or empaths, then I would ask them, think about what's happened in what your story is. Is your story that you're a victim? Is your story that you're a victor? And then begin to unthread it from there. I think it's time for me to stop talking and let somebody else talk now.
No, that was wonderful. Thank you so much. I love what you had to say about, ask the empath who feels so much, whether or not it's really theirs.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the non-empath to ask the question, well, what is my story? Those are two different
Mm-hmm.
perspectives. And I think that's wonderful guidance. So thank you.
You're welcome. My website is actually called Courageous Path. Courage.
That's right.
That was not a plug for my website. It's just that's how I've identified my services all along is using the courage that we're born with. So
That's
thank
beautiful.
you.
Yes, thank you, Sue. Chris, can I ask you to please answer the same question? The question is, just to repeat, is how do people access the courage that they need when they're feeling vulnerable?
Okay, so from my perspective, vulnerability is courage. And the way I come to that is 20 years in law enforcement, people would see me running in while everybody else ran out. We were the courageous ones, we were the strong ones. My armor, my courage and my armor kept me lonely and kept me sad. I couldn't afford to be vulnerability in our world. The way we saw it, vulnerability could actually cost us our life. So it was when I found my vulnerability that I found the courage to connect. So for me, it's kind of the totally reverse of what I think the popular conception is about courage and vulnerability. That was my experience.
That's a really, I love what you had to say about that, because it is a different perspective. It's looking at it from a whole different angle. And it's equally as important, I think, because we all have different perceptions, and that's what helps all of us grow and learn different ways to access things that we have within us. So I appreciate that point of view.
I'll just add that I was able to access that courage of vulnerability when I became really clear on what my life purpose is. And that grounded me and gave me the strength to find my voice. And when you start speaking your purpose in that language, like-minded people will hear it and get attracted to it. And that's what the connection is when you have something in common.
Yes, that's right. It's almost like it's a vibration, right? That they hear the same matches up. Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. Lisa, would you like to answer the question around courage and vulnerability?
Yes, thank you. Well, I think courage is freedom. When we are courageous, we feel free to be ourselves. And we're all on this accelerated journey to be more authentic. I mean, that's the theme this year going forward. It's been the theme. And so we are all trying to align with our authenticity so we can have the courage to be vulnerable, because we all want to matter. We all want to belong. We all want to be understood, feel heard and seen. And when you're faced with a need to be vulnerable and you're afraid of it, that's exactly when it's time to lean into that authenticity. We're here to be our own brilliant selves. We're not here to be anybody else. And the more we can practice that, the more freedom we have.
That's really true. And I love that courage is freedom, because it truly is. I think that everyone so far has touched on that piece of courage being freedom in some way, whether you stated that or not. So that's really wonderful. Thank you, Lisa. Amanda, would you like to give us your take on courage and vulnerability, please?
Yeah, I love this question. My mentor was Crystal Andress Morissette, and her biggest thing is, what would courage have you do, is the gateway to our personal empowerment. And whenever we're feeling afraid, it's the time to ask ourselves that question, what would courage have me do? I also think it's really important, just to surround yourself with people who bring out the best in you, and who you feel safe to be vulnerable with, who you feel safe to feel heard with. And I run women's circles, and I just did one in Newcastle on the weekend, and people who ordinarily would feel really afraid to be vulnerable in these safe spaces, they say things, and they really emit truths that make them so much lighter. And it is that lightness of being that we really want to achieve in this lifetime. It is that lightness of being that we really want to step into. And feeling vulnerable, it's such a human thing, right? We all want to be bigger than our humanness. We all want to be some kind of like deity or something. Like we don't have any flaws or imperfections. So being vulnerable might be a way of feeling like everything is good and I've got it together and it's all going to be okay. And that's a really good thing to think and to have that sense of self-assuredness. But there is real strength and power in fragility, in vulnerability, especially as a stay-at-home mum. My goodness, I felt so lonely and cut off from the world. And the only way I could really kind of connect with people was to be really vulnerable about how things were and to really show the truth of things. And I think that really relates to what Sue was saying with, speaking from the heart and not the head. Really, it's just being your true self and acknowledging that we all feel pain at times. So, and from that, the side of it is happiness. I think, once we get past that, it's only temporary. It's ephemeral. It's not going to be here forever. And we move on again. And that is a shedding. And I think that's a really nice thing. So I don't know, I would surround myself with, people who are perhaps, resonating at a higher place, who are happy to share and to see you in your truth and your authenticity. And just to equip yourself with some kind of internal dialogue as well, which comes from, I think, time and space in your own company. I think that's a really important thing for women who are traditionally carers, nurturers, people who they're very responsible, and it feels like it's a guilt thing that we have to always be looking after others. But when we're feeling overwhelmed, having time and space to ourselves is a really good way of just connecting to that inner dialogue. And that's a really, really positive thing for women to do, I think.
Yes, I love what you're saying about what I hear when you talk about that inner dialogue. It's like giving yourself the time to just have that moment of being so that you can recognize it. And the other thing that I wanted to touch on that you said that I thought was interesting is when in a circle of women, when they're vulnerable, it's almost like when you rip off the Band-Aid, it's the ripping off the Band-Aid that's the hardest part. And then once you have the experience that's positive, then it's a much easier way to allow yourself to be vulnerable. Is that something that you found with the women that you work with?
Yeah, I think that if women feel the need to keep silent as well, Germaine Greer says this, that if we do keep silent, it becomes an internalized rage. And I think that's a really important thing, that we don't oppress ourselves with silence, that we don't oppress ourselves unnecessarily with the burden of having to hold on to things. So yes, this ripping off of, this release, I would say it's more of a release, a cathartic one, but it's a way of getting rid of that unnecessary heaviness that can become, a pain for us. So really important to have soul sisters. So this is really nice.
That's right. Yes. Thank you so much, Amanda. And Julie, I'd like to ask you the same question. What are your thoughts around courage, accessing courage in moments of vulnerability?
One of the biggest things, and this is one of my favorite books. So thank you so much for asking about this. And for me personally, I find that accessing vulnerability is very difficult. And for many years in my life, it was something that I avoided because I have a lot of perfectionism tendencies. And when we feel that we need to be perfect, and many of us women, right, we're not going to ask for help right away. We're not going to say no to somebody because we're afraid that what they're going to think. And we really go out of our way. But it takes courage to be able to then step out of the norm, of the patterns that we have created for ourselves. One of the things that I talk about with clients typically is how we have all these sabotaging behaviors, whether it be the perfectionist or the people pleaser or the person that is the victim and, oh, woe is me. And breaking out of that and being courageous enough to say, look, I don't have all the answers, or I don't have it all together, really is one of the things that takes practice, number one. And number two, in the book, Brene Brown talks about how there's 3 different ways in which you can really combat that perfectionism, all of these tendencies that keep us from being vulnerable. And one of them is self-kindness. Self-kindness is so crucial. And if you think about for ourselves, how many times are we willing to have kindness for us? For the things that we do. And when we make mistakes, we typically are the first ones that are going to say, oh, look at me, I'm terrible. Oh, I'm whatever it might be, fill in the blank, whatever your inner dialogue is, right? I know that that's one of the things that kept me from being vulnerable. And I realized that to be kind to myself, accept myself from my mistakes, and realize that that's just part of my humanity. That's just part of who I am. And embracing that allowed me to be vulnerable. The other one is really having that critical awareness that we're not the only ones, right? I'm not the only one who's going to make a mistake, who's going to snap at her husband, who's not going to show up 110% or, stick to that workout regimen that I set out. And to be able to normalize and say, hey, I'm part of the human race. I'm just one person trying to do what is right. And tomorrow is another opportunity. And last but not least, and this is so important, especially for me in my life, and what has allowed me to be more vulnerable and open and able to take that courageous step to acknowledging my imperfections, is really using mindfulness, being aware, hey, I'm thinking I'm terrible, or I'm noticing that I want to fill in the blank, whatever it is. And when you're using mindfulness practices in everything that you do, you're going to find that you can embrace more and be more relaxed and open to the idea of sharing with others that, hey, I need help. I'm not perfect. I messed up, or whatever it is that the imperfection is that we have. And that will allow us to make connections, and we're normalizing for each other. This is why I have my podcast. I want to bring stories of people who are vulnerable enough to say, I didn't have it all together, but I'm willing to continue to show up, and I'm willing to continue to be here. So that's a little bit of how I interpret that courage and vulnerability conversation. So thank you for asking, Josette.
Yes, you're welcome. And I think you had a lot of really good things to say. One of the things that you touch on about perfectionism, I see that as a actual strength. It's just like there's a concept in Japan around pointing out all the imperfections and seeing them as beauty. Like you take a vase and you highlight the cracks in it, and then that becomes part of a landscape of beauty. So I think that's beautiful what you said, and giving yourself that kindness. So I'd like to ask you all, and I'm going to do this popcorn style, meaning that whoever wants to answer it can answer this question. How vulnerable do you need to go as an entrepreneur to connect with your audience? How deep is the vulnerability needed in order to make that connection? Does anyone have any thoughts on that? Lisa, and then Sue.
Yeah, well, what came to mind is, you always hear that you think that you need to be the expert. You think that, and so when most people, when they're starting their business, want to be so far ahead of the people that they're serving. But really, the closer you are to the people that you're serving, the closer you are in being able to relate to them, the better off you are. And I just completely forgot the question that you asked, but that's what I wanted to say about that, is that when you're able to be relevant, when you're able to understand the stories and be through the mess of where they are, have the wisdom to guide from where they are, but really understand and be able to relate and share your own stories of relatability to connect and to attract those people. I think that there's a sweet spot there. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does answer the question. And I think what I hear you say, because the question was how deep do you have to go in that vulnerability to connect? And so what I hear you say, I'm just going to kind of recap if it's okay with you, is that it's really about that connection that you have. You will go as deep as you need to match your clientele.
Yeah, absolutely. Good sum up. Yes.
Okay, good. Sue, would you like to share, please?
Sure thing. So I'm agreeing with Lisa. All right. I've been an entrepreneur my entire life, which is, well, an entrepreneur for more than 50 years. And I know that when I'm quote unquote selling to a client or to my client base, they have to be able to identify with me, which means there has to be complete authenticity and vulnerability and truthfulness. But at the same time, I have to come in with a vision that makes them want to reach for that vision, right? And I have to come in with tools that are relatable to them so that the tools aren't so far beyond where they are that it looks too big and too overwhelming for them to embrace it. So I think you have to go very deep with your own vulnerability, but at the same time, you have to also present that face. Yes, I was there. Yes, I am still there at times. And I have solutions that meet your needs and tools that are at the right level and maybe just a little bit further. So you're going to reach and grow so that whatever you put as an entrepreneur, and that goes with almost any business, even aluminum siding. You can share your stories of having a house that really needed new siding, and that's why you fell in love with it, blah, blah, blah. But I hope that answers that question. So authenticity and relatability and honesty.
Yes, and I love
and great tools.
Yes, I was just going to say, and I love that you mentioned tools. And it's so important as the entrepreneur that you are reaching within and stretching yourself, like you were saying, to provide the necessary means or the path for your clients to take and stretch themselves, and not unrelatable and enough, right?
Yeah.
Is there anyone else that, yes, Chris, please.
I agree with everything that's said. And for me, yes, it's authenticity. It's sharing my experiences that, I get it. I'm not in your shoes, but I get it. And I think for me, it's important to speak from my scars and not my wounds. So I have to be able to meet my clients where they are in their pain and in whatever's going on. And I have to be in a place where I've already healed and not bring my wounds in and subject them to that.
I think that's really, really wise information, because speaking from your scars is a clear indication that there's been a healing. You have a track record, and you're absolutely right. If you were still in an open wound, you wouldn't be of service.
You wouldn't be, and it doesn't mean that, I can think of times in my life where things have happened where I was wounded. I can speak about those events now and I can still feel emotion around it.
Right.
But there's a scar, there's not a wound.
Yes. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful information. Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to
I
hop
can
in on
share.
this? Yes.
I can
thank you,
share because
Julie.
and I'd like to piggyback, and I think that this applies not only for us as entrepreneurs, but I was in corporate for many years, and I think that this was one of my Achilles heel as a leader, is not being able to be vulnerable to the people that I led. And as a leader, whether you're an entrepreneur and you're coaching, but also in a career environment, you are going to teach them by example and being able to say, hey, I don't have it all together, but let's figure it out, or come alongside me, or I don't have it all together, but you have that particular gift, is very important to be able to be vulnerable enough for people. And once I learned that, it turned my ability to be a better leader, because I think that we're empowering others to say, oh, she showed me that it's okay, right? And we're normalizing that for other people as well. And that's one of the things that as a coach as well, I want people to know that I struggled. I don't always, have all the answers. And if I'm working and we feel that we have to, be the guru at everything, but ultimately, people come to us not because of what we know. They come to us because of what they're looking to accomplish for themselves. And as coaches, we're reflecting to them their ability and their potential and what they are able to do with the support that we're providing them. And yeah, that's a little bit of what I wanted to share. So thank you.
Yes, I think that's really wise, because especially in a leadership role in a corporate environment, it works similarly when you're leading people in that environment, because it creates more of a teamwork. They can relate to you as someone that's real. So I think that's really great information as well. Amanda, was there anything that you'd like to share?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to pitch in. I like this question in the way that how much is enough to share, or what have you. There's this theory of Johari's window that I always think about with this, the idea of it's a window that we let people see into, and what are we going to let people see into? And I think that in the age of social media especially, we're letting people into a whole lot of our lives, in different ways. And I think that the people who attract the most people as well tend to be those who are most vulnerable, who do open that window up and let people into their lives to understand their most intimate thoughts and their worldview. And I think that's not a bad thing, as long as you're speaking from a position that you've overcome those things too, and you're not there in the emotion, that you haven't become that emotion, So I think it's important that you're speaking from, I've been through this and I've explored it and I've moved on from it. It hasn't defined me and I have defined me. Do you know what I mean? So that idea of letting people in as a voyeur, in a way, everyone wants to do it, right? Everyone wants to be the Rear Window Jimmy Stewart guy, looking into other people's lives and kind of seeing what's going on and how they overcome it. I think it's great for attracting your clientele. I think it's wonderful. I'm a big advocate for mental health awareness. I've had mental health issues for a long time. And I think it's just part of modern society in a way. I think that there's a lot of stigma around mental health, but maybe this society wasn't designed for people who are creative and, a little bit different, who want to be healers, or who want to be in their own sense of self, not just, I suppose, going with the flow and being a cog in the wheel, or whatever you want to say. But yeah.
Thank you so much. I think you made some really good points, and I think that helps a lot of people when they can see that their story, they're not alone. And that leads me into my next question around witnessing, the idea of being heard, and it rolls into being seen. So I'd like to ask, how important is it for people to be witnessed so that they can be heard in a practice? And how do you convey witnessing someone? What are some of the possible tips that any of you may have to help entrepreneurs when they are looking at witnessing their own clients? I'm going to go backwards and start with Julie, if it's okay, and then we'll get over there. Chris, don't worry. I know I saw you with your hand. Okay.
I think that if we revert to when we're engaging with our clients, it's very key to allow them to let go of expectations as well for what they're trying to accomplish. Because sometimes as practitioners, we have expectations for what we're going to do for others. And that trips us up a lot. And really our job is to just be present and to create the environment for others to take agency for themselves, to take agency and be empowered. Many times we feel that, hey, and again, I want people to think that just because somebody didn't do XYZ or accomplish something, it's not a reflection on you as a coach, it's a reflection of where persons may be in that particular moment. But you have to give them the opportunity to do what they are going to or not going to do. And that's part of the growth process for them. You're facilitating growth, you're facilitating, empowering them. And again, as a coach, we're reflecting that person's greatness and gifts and opportunities that they have, but they have to be able to do the work as well. And that's part of our work sometimes, because we feel that we need to be perfect. We feel that, oh my gosh, I'm not doing my job, or I'm not helping this person and helping them live in their purpose. But sometimes the road to finding our purpose requires us to have some stumbles. And it's not about getting to that purpose, but it's really about the process of getting there, the lessons that we're getting as we move alongside to that, what we're trying to accomplish. It's all about the journey, whether it's for us or for them.
Yeah, that's really great. And what I hear you saying is that so often you have to meet people where they are, right? And then you
Yes.
give them the information, you guide as much as you can, and then it really is up to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that this is something that, again, and I want people to hear this, because yes, we're talking about specifically for coaching, but this relates to every relationship. It relates to you as a parent, you as a friend, you as a wife, you as a whatever, right? Fill in the blank. We can only have enough agency over ourselves, but really meeting people where they're at and holding space for them means that maybe we're going to be okay with them not doing or grasping or even being grateful for what is being offered to them, because they may not be in a place to receive it.
Yes. Great. Thank you so much, Julie. Chris, would you like to answer that question? You're on mute. There you go.
If I understood the question, it's how do you make sure people feel seen and heard? And if that's the question. And for me, it's first of all, I've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. Keep the mouth shut and listen with my ears. And ask them. I'm not an expert on anyone. I hope to be an expert on myself, but I'm not an expert on anyone. And making it clear to my clients that they are the expert on themselves and they have their answers. And if they've been wounded, they have the capacity to heal. And my job is to elicit the answers from them, to help them see that they already have what they need. They may just not see it right now. Mm-hmm. And not to be the rescuer, like I was the, consummate rescuer. And that disempowers people.
Yeah.
It doesn't empower anybody. Mm-hmm. For some reason, if I have time, I don't know, do I have 2 minutes to relate a story? Okay. So my purpose in life is to make people feel seen, heard, and valued. that their life matters, that they matter. And that guides my decisions. And some time ago, I was rushing into a big box store. I had my issues to deal with. And it was a rainy day. There was a filthy, wet, cold, homeless person asking for money at the door. And I saw him in a distance. I'm like, oh, I can't deal with this. I don't want to deal with this, right? Walked into the store, and right away, it just hit my heart, because that goes totally against everything I believe in. So came out of the store, and I approached him and I said, can I get you a coffee? Sure, that would be nice. I said, are you hungry? Can I get you something to eat? Oh, no. No, that was asking too much of me. There was a fast food restaurant inside this big box store. Went in, turns out the kids inside knew him, got him the food he wanted, got him his biggest coffee I could get, took it back to him. When I get emotional when I say this. When I gave him that coffee and that food, this homeless person, this most disenfranchised person on the planet, he and I made eye contact. And I'll tell you what I saw. I saw the most beautiful green eyes. I will never forget those eyes. And they say if the eyes are, the window to your soul, I saw a human being. And I saw somebody give me a smile that I will never forget. Mm-hmm. It doesn't take big things. It's not the big things.
Right.
It's the little ways that we interact with people. It's the little things we do. And we say, you have the power. I'm not here to fix you. I'm not here to do anything. I'm simply here to empower you to take care of yourself.
Yeah. And that's an excellent example of witnessing, like really actually seeing another human being. Thank you so much for sharing that, Chris. Before I get to Lisa, I just would like to let anyone who is watching us, if you have any questions, please go ahead and put that in the chat, and you'll be able to communicate with the experts that way. We are keeping an eye on it. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I'm going to go ahead and move on to Lisa. And Lisa, what do you have to say about being witnessed and the relation of being heard?
Yeah, I think the most powerful thing we can offer, and I think what people have said before, is our presence and providing a safe, secure container for people to be vulnerable and share from their heart, making it feel comforting and warm and welcoming for people to be able to share their most vulnerable self. We're not here to be fixers. I think we've all learned that by now. And so our job is not to be the fixer. It's one of the most powerful things we can do in witnessing is allow the other person to speak and hear themselves speak. Because when people hear themselves speak, it's different than what it sounds like in their own mind. And when people speak out loud, they hear it differently, and we can reflect back to them, but they also get something out of it just by us being present in a container, in a safe space where people can have this transformation happen. We're allowing this space for growth, for healing, for change, for expansion, for discovery, for so many things to happen. And and it just takes being present.
One of the things that I heard you say when you were talking about how people will hear it in their own mind, it sounds different to them. And so saying it out loud and having that opportunity, do you find that gives people clarity? Because with what you are doing, you have to really listen to what they're saying around that. So do you find that clarity is one of the resolutions that your clients or people you work with get? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, definitely they get clarity. I mean, you can ruminate in your own head about things that you think might be the solution or the answer, the result that you want. But until you say it out loud and have the reflection, there's still seems to be lack of clarity. So yeah, it definitely helps with clarity.
Great. Thank you so much. Amanda, you're up.
Yeah, I would agree with everybody. What everyone said has just been so profound and important. Witnessing and holding space. And I think that's really important, that we just are able to not really try to, problem solve or, answer anything. Just be there to hold space and to be that safe person. That I think it's almost our inner child that wants to connect with other people, really. It's just we need to feel heard. We need to be seen in our truthfulness, in our, in that way. I would agree with everything that everyone said. And it's a beautiful privilege as well to be able to be that person.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that. I agree. Thank you. And Sue.
I had to unmute so that I could witness and validate what everybody else has been saying. We on this panel are all coaches of one kind or another. And we as coaches recognize that if we are to be effective, we have to be able to witness where people are at, validate where they are at, not just witness, but also validate. And as part of that process, we have to, if we're going to be able to help them to become more responsive in the world and more connected and communicating in the world, we also need to give them the tools so that they also are able to witness the brokenness and the inconsistencies of the people around them and be able to validate that the people around them are acting authentically for how they are where they're at, which gives our clients the space to be more compassionate, which allows them to heal the client, to heal from the inside out, because now they've got more of a perspective, which is what we're all saying, is that if we give our clients that witnessing and validation, they come more into their own power, and they hear and see themselves more effectively, rather than just hearing their own thoughts going around in their heads. They're hearing them out loud. So basically, that witnessing and validation, it's a chain reaction, right? It goes in a loop. We witness and validate our client. Our client witnesses and validates themselves. Then they go on to witness and validate the people around them with whom they've been misconnecting and disconnecting, and creating new ways of communicating, which becomes a healing loop for everybody involved. So for me, witnessing and validating is the core of the work that I do with my clients. You also asked in your original question, it kind of developed into what we as coaches do, but you asked originally, how do entrepreneurs witness and validate their clients? So as an entrepreneur who is not necessarily a coach, when that entrepreneur can get out of their own selling space and basically witness where their client is coming from or their employee is coming from, validate to that person what they hear, ask for correction if they're wrong, now they're creating that entrepreneurial connection and communication that's going to build trust with their clients or with their employees, their people, and create that success in their own business, because now people can trust them because they've been heard. That person has been heard by the entrepreneur. So thank you for giving me that space to talk about it.
Oh, absolutely. And I love that you were talking about the expansion of what someone receives from being witnessed and how that ripple effect continues out throughout their lives and around their lives and passes to the next person and the next. That's absolutely beautiful. We are getting close to our time, and I would like to just remind anyone who is in our audience to please ask a question if you have one, because you have this panel of premier experts here to answer any of your questions. And what I'd like to ask all of you in a popcorn style again, we're just mixing it up here, is in like 1 to 3 sentences, can you give me your best advice for anyone, entrepreneur or otherwise, who is struggling with vulnerability and being seen and conveying their message out there? I'll take the first hand. Okay, Lisa, Sue, and then Chris.
Yeah, so I think it really starts with getting clear on who you are, and what you want to convey, first of all, and allowing yourself to feel the feels of whatever is coming up, whether it's resistance or fear or whatever that is, and acknowledging that that's normal. And then unless they go through that fear, that's always going to continue to be there. The only way to move through that fear and to get comfortable with it is to practice doing it. And so I like to say fear calls you to move through it. And so if there's a block of resistance or fear or some discomfort, that is an invitation for you to move towards it and lean in so that we can grow, so we can get to where we want to go. We are here on a journey to become more of who we are here to be in the world. And the only way to do that is to break free from the patterns and conditioning and programming that we've been blocked by, and to move towards that which we want.
That's fantastic. I think that we often think that those, what we would consider negative feelings, are, things that we want to just move aside or hurry up and move through to get out of the way. Yet they really are so valuable if we were to stop, slow it down, and pay attention. So I think that's really good advice. Thank you. Okay. And then I had Sue and then Chris, right? Sue, go right ahead, please.
Okay, so the title of this panel is Visibility, Vulnerability, and Sharing, correct? Okay, so we're talking primarily about visibility. But what happens when a person feels terribly exposed and extremely vulnerable is that they force themselves into an energetic invisibility. So that they to keep themselves safe, they actually create this screen around themselves energetically where people will notice them less. They'll become invisible in society. And I think the share here is that when you feel yourself so vulnerable that you create this invisibility around yourself, you're going to feel that you've been segregated from society, that they are the ones who've pushed you off to the side, when in fact, out of a bid for security and survival, you've actually partitioned yourself away from society. So it's the vulnerability piece that if you can recognize that a lot of times when you're pushed off into a corner, nobody notices, you get passed over for everything. They don't pay attention when you speak. It's as if you're not even there. You're invisible. Your mouth is moving. There's sound coming out, but nobody's hearing you. It's because energetically you've made yourself invisible. So in those moments, just take a few calming breaths and just remind your inner survival limbic brain system that you need to be visible and allow your voice to be heard. You do that by taking a couple of strong breaths, just a couple of calming breaths, and you start again. And you say, I need to be visible in your own mind. And you shed that invisibility. So visibility is key to becoming courageous.
And I'd like to ask you, how would someone know that they have created, what are some of the indicators that they create that invisibility?
If at work they're being passed over for promotion, if when they speak in a crowd, it's as if they are not even there. People don't even pay attention. if they're discounted. So they say something, but people say, no, 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 let's move on. Somebody else, please. If you're negated, if you're constantly being put down, it's because you've created this invisibility as well. I had a friend who kept getting into car accidents, and really weird car accidents. And she was standing by her car. A police officer came by and he was ticketing every car on the street. He walked right past hers. He didn't know she was connected with it. And she said to me, how did that happen? And she walked up to the cop and said, why are you ticketing all these cars, but you missed mine?
I don't know
Anyway,
if I'd asked that question, but okay.
He said, oh my God, I didn't even see your car was there. She had put an invisibility cloak around her car to keep her and her car invisible to accidents. What she actually did was make herself invisible, her car invisible completely. Nobody saw it in traffic and kept banging into it.
That's a great story. Thank you.
You can relate that to your own personal life. If people keep banging into you, not respecting you, not noticing you, as if you're not even there.
Right. You'll get the hint, right?
You get the hint that you are doing something to keep yourself invisible.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
That's great, Sue. Thank you. Thank you. And Chris, would you like to share, please?
There was a time, as I alluded to earlier, where I thought vulnerability would kill me. Literally, vulnerability would kill me. And when I started sort of my journey, one of the people who had a huge impact on me was Viktor Frankl in his Man's Search for Meaning. So Viktor Frankl, for those who don't know, was a psychiatrist, medical doctor. He was Jewish. He was in Auschwitz. And he attributed his survival to his ability to find meaning and purpose in his role in the camp. And he said that when new prisoners would come in, he could tell who would survive and who wouldn't by their ability to find meaning in the suffering. I believe we all have a purpose. And I believe that purpose is to share our unique gifts with the world for the betterment of all. If someone's struggling with vulnerability, I would say, stop looking outside, look within, and find your purpose. What is the impact you want to have on the world? When you can connect with your purpose, it gives you a strength to stand your grounds, know what you believe in, what you stand for, and you lose the need to be invisible because the courage that you find gives you the confidence to deal with whatever life throws your way. So that was the message that I would like to leave is, don't look out there. The answers are within you. Your courage is already in here. You just have to connect with it.
And sometimes looking within is the most vulnerable thing you can do for yourself.
And you have to do it honestly.
Right, exactly.
Honestly, yes. And just going back to what was being said earlier, I believe that as coaches, when we do what all of this that we're sharing and our beliefs and all that, this is how each one of us is contributing to world peace. Mm-hmm. I believe that. Yeah. It's not going out there and dealing with famine in Africa. Yes, I understand there's famine, but that's beyond our sphere of influence. What we're doing, when we do what we say we do and stand for here, that's our contribution to world peace. And there is a ripple effect.
That's right. Even the smallest things are, right? Smallest things. Thank you so much for your share, Chris. And Julie and Amanda, would either of you like to add something before we end tonight?
I just have one quick thing, and I, echo what everybody else said. What an incredible panel. But ultimately, the other thing that I think is a stumbling block for many, and really Brene talks about this in the book, is when we are paying attention and we're comparing and despairing. So stay in your own lane. Swim in your own lane. I can tell you from experience, I did a triathlon once. When you're comparing yourself to the swimmers next to you, you slow down. So if you want to be visible, if you want to be vulnerable, stay in your own lane and own it. When I own that I am not an Olympic swimmer, that this is my pace, and I just kept going, it made me move forward. And that's all we're looking for. Consistent action will get you traction. So thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much, Julie. Good words to end by. Amanda.
I was literally going to say the same thing about comparison and how it really robs us of our own ability to just shine and to be to do what we need to do. So yeah, if you're really feeling lost and you're not quite sure what to project outwards, it's usually because maybe there's just too much, you are looking too much at what's around you and not spending enough time within. Going within is a really healing thing for ourselves to do regularly, which is why meditation is so important and so cathartic. But yeah, just too much visibility. We live in a very visual world, and social media is incredible. But some of the biggest influencers follow literally no one. So they don't want to compare. So there you go.
That's great. Thank you so much, Amanda. I want to thank everyone for participating tonight. What a fabulous group of experts that we have here. And I'm going to turn things over to Sophia. I appreciate everyone being here and great conversation. So it's all yours, Sophia.
Thank you. And thank you, Josette, for facilitating. And I totally agree. It's been a wonderful and amazing conversation. And I'm really looking forward to rewatching everything. And all your wonderful tips is amazing on how to be, how we can just stand out and accept that vulnerability, step into it. And just allow ourselves to be visible. It's really, really, really nice. So thank you for joining us. I'd like to just offer everyone a very quick opportunity, including you, Josette, just to very quickly, if you want to have any gifts that you want to give away, any programs that you want to offer to all our audience. We have put all your links in the comments, but would anyone like to offer anything very, very, very quickly to our audience members? Lisa, yes, please.
Yeah, I just would like to offer a clarity call, a complimentary call, 30 minutes. If anybody's interested in wondering what's blocking them from moving forward and having the success that they want, if they want to know if they're connected with the right ideal audience, or if their tagline is correct, or any of those things, we could talk about that on the 30-minute call. I'd be happy to do that. It's fun.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
Great, thank you. Before you go, would you like to tell us very quickly about your tribe, or your two tribes, especially the Rise Up, or both of them, Rise Up and Finding Me?
Yeah, so the Rise Up, Embody Your Infinite Light is about rising up and embodying your infinite light. And it's going to change a little bit at the beginning of the year, where we're going to be doing actually creative artistic workshops. So that's going to be really fun for self-expression. And then the Finding Me tribe is Josette and I co-host, and it's a great tribe. We have the best discussions about really coming home to your own divinity and what does that mean, and how to discover more of who you are. So yeah, thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you. And all the links for that are in all the comments. So thank you for that. All right. So who else? Shall we go? Julie, yes.
I do.
Yep.
This is that time of the year where many people are kind of looking back at what they set out to accomplish through the year. And I just hosted what I call the last sprint of 2022. So I went through a very specific plan for people to know what are the things that they need to do to be able to make 2022 the best year ever and achieve and be productive and get some of these things checked off your list that you set out to do for your personal life or your business. So I have all of the videos from the masterclass. There's 3 videos, and then I walk you through a plan and how to put together that plan for that last sprint of the year. So anybody who wants to get that from me, they can just send me an email at julie@goconfidentlycoaching.com, or they can log into my website and I can send that to them.
Not a problem. Thank you. Thank you for that. And Amanda, what about your beautiful self? Do you have anything that you'd like to share with our audience?
Sure. I'm happy to offer coaching services and a coaching call for just initial consult. It's a complimentary one. If you'd like to contact me at hello@amandarakovich.com. I've also got a 6-week grounding course that is looking to be lifted off the ground fairly soon, and another ebook coming out really soon as well. So check out my website. Thank you.
Okay, will do. I've got those links in. Thank you very much. And Chris, what about yourself? Is there anything that we can tune into?
You betcha. If you're feeling stressed, stuck, overwhelmed, and you just can't quite get a vision of the life that you want, I'm more than happy to chat for, again, complimentary 30 minutes. And just go to meetwithchris.com. You'll go directly to my calendar. Meet with Chris. And remember, Chris is Krys. And I'll be happy to chat with you for sure.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And Sue, what about yourself? What would you like to offer? Have you got anything? You're muted, Sue.
Thank you. So like everybody else, I also have a complimentary conversation. My conversation will lead to a life blueprint that is also a free life blueprint, which is next steps for where you want to get to. At the same time, I'm also offering Calm the Overwhelm. It's a 9-week coaching program for highly sensitive entrepreneurs to take back control of their life, their business, their whatever it is where they are overwhelmed. But it is a step-by-step process, 9 weeks, and it will also be launched very soon. My contact information is in the chat.
Yes.
Just contact me there, and we will set up your free life blueprint, which may or may not lead into Calm the Overwhelm workshops. I'm also the host of Life Force Activators, which is, we meet bi-weekly in sacredyou.love. And we talk about how to just find the joy and the activation of happiness and positive energy. But it's more than positive energy, it's life force energy.
Yes.
We have unique conversations that are just kind of wherever they need to go. But there is, I provide a theme for each session, and then we just go from there. They're always fun, they're always informative, and people come away with something new. I hope you'll join me.
And I thoroughly agree with you. They are very fun, are very informative, and thoroughly recommend it. But we'll talk more about that. So thank you for offering all that, for sharing all that. And Josette, what about our beautiful facilitator? What do you have to offer for everyone?
Yes, well, my business is Guidance to Wellness, and I transform women's lives through self-mastery. And I'm offering a free masterclass that goes over the 3 key foundations of the journey to self-mastery, where you are looking at healing, embodiment, and your ultimate freedom. I am also offering a free self-mastery assessment. So if you're interested in that, you can connect with me, and we will have a free 30-minute conversation around where you are in your self-mastery, which is all around your self-awareness. I'm also the host of The Path to Self-Esteem, and we are getting ready to do a really fun format in that we have a discussion and teaching moments, and so that's going to be really fun. I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, so am I, another tribe, and I just want to honour you and thank you for bringing that to our community. And again, thank everyone for coming today, and for everyone who is watching us. Do come back same time tomorrow. We have almost the same time tomorrow, just 1 hour later. Is Lisa, our beautiful Lisa, will be hosting or facilitating Becoming the Creatrix of Your Reality. So do tune in for that panel discussion. And while you're there, click on the links, or while you're here, click on the links in the comments. Check out sacredyou.love, which is the website for our sacred community. And you can join us just for $1 Australian. Try us out for 3 weeks. You get to try Sue's tribe and Josette's tribe and Lisa's tribes and any of our 30 odd tribes, ranging from personal development to health and wellness to all sorts of things on the metaphysical and business. We have an entrepreneurs tribe, all sorts of stuff. And try us out for 3 weeks, and then after that it's just $15 Australian a month. Easy. Come and join us. And again, I know I've said it to you, I just want to honour everyone for coming today. I want to thank everyone for coming. It's been a wonderful conversation, and we will see you all very, very, very soon.